Road tripping in a Tesla can be quick, easy, and worry-free, and that's thanks to Tesla's extensive supercharger network. But that doesn't cover everywhere you want to go. Sometimes you want to go off the beaten path and explore the areas of this country that have some incredibly interesting things. We just got back from a 400-mile round trip to southern Iowa, and we did it all without using a single supercharger. And the reason why we didn't use superchargers is because there weren't any to use. In fact, when we got to our final destination after spending a whole day on back roads in southern Iowa, we didn't have enough charge to leave. We didn't have enough charge to make it back to any supercharger of any kind. So how did we make it work? Why would you even want to do that? I'm going to get to making it work in a second, but the reason why is because you can experience all kinds of things about America that you don't get to see anywhere else, especially if you're driving on an interstate. Now, one of the first places that we went to was Riverside, Iowa. And for those Trek fans, you know Riverside, Iowa is the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk. We pulled into this little town, and there were flags and banners on the signposts that had different pictures of the original cast. And when you made your way up toward the museum, there was a large model of the Enterprise parked out front. Now, the museum was free and it was fun. It wasn't Hollywood style, it was definitely Iowa style, and if you're a truck fan, there was quite a bit of memorabilia to see, from costumes to a mock-up of the bridge to a transporter pad that you could stand on for a quick selfie. Now, across the street from the museum was a bronze statue of the captain himself, Captain Kirk, and I was able to get a quick selfie with the captain, and I was also able to practice some of my mind meld techniques on the captain, which actually didn't work very well. Now, after we got done with Riverside, Iowa, we made our way west into Amish country in the Kelowna, Iowa area, and it was a great place. You saw the Amish buggies. You got to see a lot of places that you won't normally see. We stopped at Kelowna Creamery to pick up some ice cream in the middle of the day. It was a refreshing retreat. We also stopped at Stringtown Grocery, and it was just a cool little grocery store that was Amish run, where you could pick up a 50-pound bag of flour sitting right next to a huge assortment of locally sourced jams and jellies. After we were done with Amish country, we headed west to Eldon, Iowa, to see the Grant Wood American Gothic house. Now, this is the actual house that Grant Wood used as inspiration for that iconic painting. And it was a great little place to stop off. The scenery was great. You could take a selfie in front of the house itself. It was a great little stop. After we were done with Grant Wood's American Gothic house, we made our way over to Albia, Iowa, to see the Welcome Home Soldier Monument. Now, this is a really small town, but the monument itself was quite large and impressive. It was not really what I expected at all. Tons of flags, tons of little memorials to honor our troops, and it was a great place to stretch our legs. And before making our way to our final destination, you had to stop at the 90-year-old pyramids just outside of Avery, Iowa, in the Hickory Grove Cemetery. In fact, we had to drive 10 miles on gravel roads just to get there, and tucked in the back of this little cemetery were these 3 huge rock and concrete pyramids that apparently back in the 1930s, there was a guy that was obsessed with ancient Egypt, built these pyramids in the back of the cemetery with intent on being buried in them upon his death. As it turns out, he wasn't buried there at all, but the pyramids still stand. And if it wasn't for going off the beaten path, you'd never be able to find a place like this. After about 10 different stops, we made it to our final destination, which was the Honey Creek Resort in southern Iowa, right on Rathbun Lake. And it was a beautiful place. But the problem was we got there with 25% state of charge, and we started the day with 100% state of charge. And we were so far away from everywhere that we didn't have enough battery to make it back. In fact, we didn't have enough battery to make it to any supercharger. But it was okay. It is possible, and we didn't get stuck. And let me show you how we did it. Now, for the most part, Tesla's navigation system is really good and is really accurate. But one of the big drawbacks to the Tesla navigation system is that it doesn't have waypoints. And if you're trying to plan a trip with 10 stops in a day, especially when there are no superchargers, how do you figure out how to do it? Well, the key app and website to use is called A Better Route Planner. The A Better Route Planner app works a lot like Google Maps. You can enter in your waypoints and enter in a state of charge, and it will give you an estimation of how much you're going to need for each leg of the way and how much you're going to be when you get to the end. And even if you need to stop at a supercharger, it will try to route you to the superchargers. Now, it is key that you enter in the right vehicle into the app because it uses the average watt hour per mile as its basis for its calculations. Now, I found that in the summertime, when it's nice and sunny like this, it works really, really well. Matter of fact, the estimation was within just a couple of percentage points of what it actually was. But we did also use it in the wintertime when it was colder and the car is less efficient, and the app didn't seem to work all that well for us. So let me show you how the A Better Route Planner app works and how we used it to plan our trip.
Okay, here's the A Better Route Planner app on my Mac. And you can see here on the left, you can start by entering in all your waypoints. And I entered in the waypoints that we are going to do for this trip. And what you do is you just hit the calculate button and everything will get calculated for you. And you can see here that it actually is taking me from my location in Cedar Rapids area, Iowa, and taking us down to a supercharger, which actually isn't what we want to do. It says that we're going to stop at the Mount Pleasant supercharger, which is quite a bit out of the way of where we wanted to go before arriving at our destination at Honey Creek with 32%. And the reason why it did this is because of the default settings within the A Better Route Planner app, and to adjust that, you can hit the back button and settings. Make sure your car model is set the way you want. Also, you might want to adjust some settings from your state of departure charge. So we actually left with 100%. And also, we're going to change our battery settings to say what are we feeling most comfortable with, which is I'm okay getting to my final destination with 5%. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that and then hit recalculate. Okay, now you will see that it actually took that into account and allowed us to go cross country for when we're going to arrive at our destination at the resort with 24%. And what we found that when we left at 100 and we actually got to our destination, we were right in the high 20s, I believe the number was, so the calculation was actually pretty spot on.
Now, after using the A Better Route Planner app, we're confident that we can get from our starting position through all of our waypoints to our ending position. But what about the charging? How do we deal with the charging? How do we get back? Well, the key to that is an app and website called PlugShare. PlugShare is an application that allows you to find all of the various level 2 chargers available to you outside of the supercharger network. So what's a level 2 charger? A level 2 charger is something above 110 volts, but less than a DC fast charger. Odds are, if you're a Tesla owner, you have some sort of level 2 charging at your home. It's probably 230 volts, and it has various levels of amperage. They have a range between 3 and 12 kilowatts, and as it turns out in our planning, we found that the Honey Creek Resort actually had 3 Tesla level 2 chargers in the parking lot. Unfortunately, the stalls weren't marked of any kind, and when we got there, 2 of the 3 stalls were completely iced out. And what I mean by iced out is that there were 2 large trucks, internal combustion engine vehicles, parking in the spots. Now, I can't fault them too much because the spots weren't labeled at all. In fact, if you aren't familiar with what a Tesla charger looks like, it actually could have been confused for a just coiled up water hose. In fact, there was a gentleman there that was studying it up and down and wondering why the water hose was plugged into my car. He just couldn't understand it. Ironically, up front in the very front part of the resort, there were 5 marked slots for hybrid vehicles, reserved only for hybrid vehicles, which makes no sense because hybrid vehicles could actually park anywhere, and the Tesla slots were on the far end, unlabeled. Well, it was okay. We got a spot. We got plugged in. It was a little bit before dinner. but we had to leave for dinner. And we made our way down to Centerville, Iowa to eat dinner. And it's a small town about 15 minutes drive north of the Missouri-Iowa border. And in this little town, as it turns out, there are also level 2 chargers. And we were able to plug in on the town square and have it sit there and charge while we ate. And after we got done eating, we unplugged, and the amount that we were able to get, which wasn't a ton, but we were able to get enough to basically fill up the amount of battery that we had used up coming down from the resort and down to eat and back. So we pulled into the resort. We went to go try to park in one of the 3 spots, and all 3 spots were completely filled with internal combustion engine cars. We went up to the front. We said, hey, what's the deal? We actually need to charge. If we can't charge, we can't leave. And they said, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about it, which was unfortunate. Well, there was a concert going on that night. It was a great 80s cover band. It was right outside the back of our room. It was a very enjoyable concert. But once the concert was over, I was hopeful that some of the people parking in those spots were there just for the concert, and it turned out that that was right. And a spot freed up. We were able to get in, plug in for the night, and we were good to go. And by morning, we woke up with 90%, which was enough to get us back home. So overall, this was a great trip. It was a great adventure, and it is totally possible in a Tesla. And to make things even better, because we didn't use superchargers and we used free chargers at both locations in our destination, the entire trip cost us about $7, or about enough for 2 gallons of gas. Also, autopilot was a dream on these back roads. It really made the trip incredibly enjoyable for the driver, and I was able to look around and enjoy where we were going and what we were seeing even more. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps drive the channel. We have new content coming out all the time, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Also, if you're thinking about picking up your own Tesla, make sure you use a referral code to get 1,000 free supercharger miles. Use any code, but if you want to use my code, that would be great. Until next time, this is Jim, the Iowa Tesla Guy. Happy driving.